Hi, I'd like to share just a little bit about what we will be doing this following week. This week you'll build a professional development plan, and it's very different from the professional development plan for those of you that are K-12 teachers and have developed the PDP for PI 34. The PI 34 professional development plan has a lot to do with your students and not as much to do with yourself. This plan is very personal and it's geared specifically towards your professional development needs. So one of the first things that I wanted to show you this week was the upcoming Educational Technology Conferences in southeastern Wisconsin. If you click on this first module, you will see that I've shared the Wisconsin Area Middle Level Educators Convention, and that one is actually being held at Marian University in Stair Center. And it is $135 for educators and $25 for university students. The Google and Intel Mini Summit is actually at UW-Oshkosh at Sage Hall, and that one is on October 12th. And then EdCamp Fond du Lac, this one I would really suggest going to. The Educational Technology team is the organizer of this event, and it's 100% free if you've never been to an EdCamp before, or even if you have, and if you'd like to check that out, go ahead and click on our website and register. Like I said, it's 100% free. So I'm going to go back to the course here. So all of those links and details are in that first object there, the October and November EdTech conferences. And even if you're outside of education or if you're in higher ed, that EdCamp would really be beneficial to you to see what technology is available for anyone, really, not just educators. So this week you will be developing that professional development plan, and let me show you what the template looks like really quickly, and then I will get into the standards. The template is linked right within the course there, and the professional development plan is your Gate 1, and that's Gate 1 of 3 for the program. Gate 2, it will happen during EDT 655, and that's your grant writing. And then Gate 3 is the actual portfolio. So the completed portfolio will happen at the very end of the program. So in order to complete this PDP, you need to first evaluate where you're at within the different standards. And we have quite a few different standards, and you notice that I closed the course for next week last night because I needed to modify those standards to align with the InTASC standard. If you're not familiar with those, I'll get into that a little bit further, but the InTASC standards are actually the replacement now for the Wisconsin teaching standards, and this has come about mostly due to like the governmental restrictions based on the educator effectiveness and PI 34 and all the changes that are just happening in education nationally right now. So these standards they're almost identical to the Wisconsin state teacher standards, but they are now national standards. So I'll show you those and go over those. And then the NETSC standards. These are the National Educational Technology Standards for coaches, and that's not athletic coaches, it's teaching technology coaches. So I will show you those as well. And then I'm also going to show you, and I don't have in here, but I'm going to show you the NETS-T standards as well, and those are the National Educational Technology Standards for teachers. And then I'll show you the student standards too, just so that you have an idea of where your students should be at right now. So from that, you're going to kind of do a self-evaluation and a self-reflection on those standards, and then determine 2 of the InTASC standards that you want to work on for your professional development plan for the entire program. And think about this program-wide, not just within this class. So think about it as the whole educational technology program. So you're going to select 2 standards and then write 1 goal for each standard. So you'll have 2 large scope goals for the entire program. And then after you've written your goals, then you're going to add a little bit more detail to that, and that comes further in this PDP plan. So your goal statement is here at the top, and then you need to come up with an outcome. And then activities completed. This will be done as you move through the program. You can put a couple of different ideas of what you have that you may be completing as you move through the program that could serve as evidences, but this really should be added to as you're moving throughout the program. And then the evaluation method used. This is how you plan to collect your data how you plan to determine whether or not you've met your goal, and that you should have filled in this week. So what way will you evaluate yourself? You'll list the InTASC standard, the NETS teacher standard, and the NETS coaching standard. And then evidences to meet your goal, and this can also be filled out as you move through the program. It's a lot like the activities completed section here. This can just be more specific, and every time you complete something, you can add that in here. And then these will be answered, these 5 questions will be answered when you're totally done with the program. So you don't need to worry about this section at all right now. And then your second goal statement goes on the second page, all of the same information. And again, don't worry about these questions until the end. Okay, so the NETS standards. So I'm going to the NETS website, the ISTE.org/standards, and all of these links are in the course too so that you can visit this, but I just wanted to go over kind of the basics of all of these different standards so that you have a grasp on where to start when you're looking at this. So if you are not familiar with this at all, ISTE, I-S-T-E, is the International Society for Technology and Education. It's the international organization for teachers and technology for teachers. They have one of the, I think it's the largest educational technology conference in the world every year. I've presented there the last 2 years, and I hope to be presenting again next summer. The conference is always in June, and it moves around the country. So the first year I went, it was in San Diego, and this past year it was in San Antonio, and this coming year it's in Atlanta. So if you ever have the opportunity to go, I highly recommend it. I know John Spike in our class, he was at ISTE this past year because that's where I met him and told him about our program. So he can tell you too that ISTE is a wonderful conference to go to. Okay, so ISTE, that organization, made these National Educational Technology Standards, and these have gone through, I believe, 2 revisions. The original standards, especially for students, came out in 2000, I believe, and now they've been refreshed again. So the NETS standards for students came out in 2009. The NETS for teachers, let's see, those were in, I think those were in 2011 or 2009 maybe. And the NETS for coaches, those just came out last year. So this is fairly new information. And even the NETS for students standards that came out in 2009 are still current, and they're still valuable for our classrooms. So why are the NETS important? The NETS really focus on comprehensive technology integration and not just learning how to use PowerPoint, learning how to use Word, learning how to use Google. It's actually the infusion of the technology within the curriculum. So there's some bullet points here. You can feel free to read those if you'd like. So the NETS S are the NETS for students, and there are 6 standards for students. So the first standard is creativity and innovation. The second standard is on communication and collaboration. The third is research and information fluency. The fourth is critical thinking, problem solving, and decision making. The fifth is digital citizenship, and the sixth is technology operations and concepts. Now, these standards each have sub-standards below them. So anytime that you cite the ISTE NETS S, and you will be required to do that when you're writing lesson plans and things like that throughout the program, you'll need to make sure that you do 1, creativity and innovation, and then A or B or C or D, whichever one applies. So the way that you would list that standard is to say 1, creativity and innovation, and then D, identify trends and forecast possibilities. So however you're identifying that, make sure that you're specific enough and don't just list communication and collaboration, list the actual breakdown of the standard. So those are the NETS for students. So then I will move on to the NETS for teachers. This too, there are NETS profiles for students, and this actually outlines the grade levels, because you'll notice that there are no grade levels attached to these standards. These are K-12 standards, actually pre-K through 12. So if you take a look at the profiles, this breaks down the standards, kind of benchmarks for the standards, and then the standards are numbered here for that grade level. So ages 4 to 8 should be able to do this. ages 8 to 11, and so on and so on. So you can take a look at those two. Those are the profiles. So then the ISTE Nets for Teachers, and I don't actually have a survey for you to take on this. I felt like you have a survey for the Nets coaching standards, and then you have a survey for the InTASC standards, and then a survey for the teacher disposition statements. So the teaching standards are necessary, yes, but they're primarily taught now in undergraduate teacher education, but for some of you, this may be where you're at, and that's fine too, so I linked those in there for you as well. There are 5 teaching standards, and these were released in 2008. The ability to facilitate and inspire student learning and creativity is standard 1, and then just like the student standards, there are breakdowns of that standard under each. Design and develop digital age experiences and assessments, model digital age work and learning, promote and model digital citizenship, and engage in professional growth and leadership. And you'll see that some of these, like the digital citizenship, the learning experiences, creativity, they're very closely aligned with the student standards, but just what the teacher is supposed to do in order to facilitate those student standards. And then once we move over to the coaching standards, this is where things really change a lot. And I just want to pull up the coaching white paper here. And I'm going to put this in the course for you to take a look at. It's 23 pages long. I'm not requiring you to read this, but I just want to kind of give you a little bit of a background on the coaching standards. The technology coaching standards, like I said, are new. And to be a technology coach is a really new position in a school district. We first saw it in Illinois, and now it's making its way north. There are quite a few technology coaches in the Milwaukee area, and in Fond du Lac now there are technology coaches, and it's moving its way north. I know Oshkosh hired a technology coach this summer, and Green Bay has technology coaches as well. So the problem was that teachers did not know how to design and support a technology-rich learning environment. So the solution that ISTE came up with, and a huge collaboration of people came up with, was that we could have technology coaches, and they would facilitate that community of learning and promote professional development within the schools as a continuously rolling professional development. So not just someone comes in and does an in-service one day and they're gone. These technology coaches actually stay within the building. Usually it's a full-time position, and they were teachers. So they are not IT people. They're actually teachers, and they are providing that technology coaching for their peers. And this white paper continues to go through the different types of professional development, the different types of coaching, and I'll post that in the class for you if you're interested in reading that. So the NETS-C are the NETS coaching standards. We just recently aligned our program with the coaching standards, and you'll see the coaching standards in the syllabus, in all of your syllabi actually throughout the program, and you'll be able to see where we aligned assignments with the different coaching standards to make sure that we were covering all of these standards in our program. Through the completion of this program, you'll also receive a technology coaching certificate, which no other universities are offering right now. So you're really on the cutting edge of that tech coaching certificate. So the coaching standards, number 1 is visionary leadership. 2 is teaching, learning, and assessment. 3 is digital age learning environment, and you'll see that that one is kind of a repeat of the teaching standards. Same with digital citizenship, professional development and program evaluation, content knowledge, and professional growth. And there are just 6 standards here. And the professional growth, the program evaluation, and the visionary leadership are very much educational leadership type of standards. So some of these you'll see overlapping with administrative standards or the NETS-A, but then it also integrates that coaching element and the technology element, of course, too. And finally, the InTASC standards. So the InTASC standards were developed nationally. These are national standards, and they came out in 2011. And the survey that you're actually going to take today is a little bit different or that you'll take next week, is a little bit different than just listing the standards. It has a progression of the standards. And this is something that you'll do in live text. So you can read the main standard up here, and then it gives you a benchmark here, and then examples of what that would look like. So if you were at a level 1 with standard 1, you would fall in this category. If you were a level 2, you would do all of this and the second column. And if you were a level 3, you would do 1, 2, and 3. So you can go through that and take a look at that. And this actually you'll do in live text, but you're going to have to look at this PDF document for the progression of the standards for all of these different benchmarks, because the live text system wouldn't let me input this much data into one survey. So unfortunately it's in 2 separate spots, but I think that this view is a little bit nicer to take a look at. And then I just have the original question, which you'll see right here, and then option 1, 2, or 3. So that's the progression of the standards. So what you'll see within just the standards document are just the standards outline. And there are 10 standards, just like there were 10 Wisconsin teaching standards. And the main standard is just listed at the top, so the teacher understands how, and then goes through that. And then below that, there are specific performances, knowledges, and dispositions. And these are very much like the Wisconsin KSDs, if you're familiar with that, the knowledges, skills, and dispositions. So you have essential knowledge, performance would be the same as the skills, and then the dispositions are the same. So it's very similar language, just a little bit different. And the standards, like I said, are very closely related. So this one is on learning differences, learning environments, content knowledge, application of content, assessment, planning for instruction, and instructional strategies, professional learning and ethical practice, and leadership and collaboration. Now, these do not necessarily overlap with the NETS-T or the NETS-C, but you can find common threads. So if you go through this progression, so that would be this document here in this survey, and let's say that you need to work on standard 3, learning environments. You can go back to the NETS-C, and you'll see that digital age learning environments would align with that learning environments in the InTASC standards. So you'll be able to find out where things overlap and where they align, and then just specifically state the benchmark under each of those so that we understand which part you're working on, and that would all go in your PDP template. So right here you would write the InTASC standard, you would write the NETS-T that aligns, and then the NETS-C.